Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Beauty and the Beasts, where we dive into scary stories, dark mysteries, and eerie folklore, while keeping things just a little bit glam. So today I'm going to do my makeup while talking about one of the most haunted and controversial bridges in the Philippines, a place wrapped in mystery, urban legends, and some truly terrifying ghost stories. From human sacrifices and disappearances to ghostly soldiers and headless priests, this bridge isn't just a landmark, it is a hotspot for horror. So grab your snacks, get comfy, and let's unravel the dark secrets behind this infamous bridge. Now let's get into the story. Have you ever heard of human sacrifice being used in construction? It sounds something straight out of a horror movie, right? But in some cultures, some Asian cultures, there's this eerie belief that sacrificing a person, which means burying them alive in the foundations of a building, could make the structure stronger. And in places where this was supposedly done, strange things tend to happen, like accidents, tragedies, and some even say curses. In Japan, they have a name for it, hitobashira, but that's not the story we're talking about today. This one takes us to the Philippines, to a bridge with a dark and disturbing past. And this story was actually sent to me by one of you, and it's about one of the most infamous bridges in the country, the San Juanico Bridge. Now, if you're from the Philippines, you've probably heard of this bridge. If you're not from the Philippines, you know now. So this bridge stretches 2.16 kilometers over the San Juanico Strait, connecting the islands of Samar and Leyte. When it was completed, it was the longest bridge in the country, part of the massive pan-Philippine highway linking major islands together, which is impressive, right? But beyond its grandeur, the San Juanico Bridge is surrounded by eerie tales and chilling rumors. First, there's the controversy of its construction. Built between 1969 and 1973 under the rule of then-President Ferdinand Marcos, it was supposedly a gift to his wife, Imelda Marcos. And that is why the bridge is dubbed the Bridge of Love. So from an aerial view, its structure forms the letters L and S, representing Leyte and Samar. But some believe the unusual design was just an excuse to inflate the budget, meaning more money to be pocketed by corrupt officials. And yet, despite all the corruption rumors, the bridge has stood the test of time, enduring earthquakes, typhoons, and even the devastation of Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. Some say that is thanks to its solid engineering and high-quality materials, but others believe there's something much darker keeping the bridge standing. Say, the real mystery behind the San Juanico Bridge lies in the disappearances. According to locals, during the years of its construction, people started vanishing mysteriously, like without a trace. Most of them were last seen near the construction site. Young vagrants, street children, beggars. And then, almost as soon as the bridge was completed, the disappearances stopped. This led to whispers of something horrifying, maybe human sacrifice. Some believe that these missing people were abducted, perhaps by the very workers building that bridge. Some say that their throats were slit and their blood was mixed into the cement used for the foundation. And the reason is because of an old, chilling belief that human blood would make the structure stronger, that it would bind the materials together and protect it from collapse. And did you know that human sacrifice was once a part of construction practices in parts of East and Southeast Asia? Yeah, as eerie as it sounds, in ancient times, some cultures believed that offering a life, sometimes through premature burial, would ensure the stability and protection of a building. It was a way to appease spirits and prevent disasters. So take Japan, for example. I don't know if you ever heard of hitobashira. Maybe not. Yeah, the name literally means human pillars. And it refers to an old belief where people were sacrificed and buried inside the foundations of massive structures like castles, bridges, and dams. This idea was that their spirits would act as guardians, keeping the buildings safe from floods, earthquakes, and even enemy attacks. But the victims, they were sometimes drowned, buried alive, and entombed within the very walls of the structures they were meant to protect. And Japan wasn't the only place with this kind of practice. In China, there was something similar known as, I don't know if the pronunciation is right, but Da Sang Zhong in Cantonese and Da Sheng Zhuang in Mandarin. And in Burma, modern day in Myanmar, a ritual called Miao followed the same chilling idea. Human sacrifices meant to strengthen the buildings against future threats. And in Indonesia, there is something called tumbal proyek, or construction sacrifices. Workers would reportedly kidnap people and offer them as sacrifices to the spirits of the land. And if they don't, the spirits would take sacrifices themselves, often by causing fatal accidents near the construction site. Even in the Philippines, there's a long history of blood offerings in construction. The ritual called padugo, which means to let blood flow, involved spilling the blood of a sacrificed animal, usually a chicken, pig, or buffalo, onto the foundation of the building. The belief was that this blood would satisfy the spirits of the land and prevent actual deaths, human deaths, during construction. In other words, it was a form of spiritual insurance to keep the workers and future residents safe from misfortune. But here's something even more intriguing. If the blood was used for the foundation, what happened to the body? Well, in many cases, the butchered animal would be cooked and shared in a feast among the community. Some historians even speculate that the Filipino tradition of lechon, the famous roasted pig, might have originated from this ancient sacrificial practice. So let's go back to the San Juanico Bridge. There is another version of this chilling story, one that ties directly to one of the most powerful and controversial women in Philippine history. According to this version, a woman, initially unnamed, was put in charge of overseeing the construction of the bridge. She consulted engineers, architect, and even spiritual experts. Some say she went as far as seeking guidance from a shaman or a fortune teller who told her that the bridge could be never completed unless a blood sacrifice was made. And that is when things turned truly sinister. Rumors began swirling about who this woman was. Many names were thrown around, but the most prominent candidate was Imelda Marcos, the wife of then-President Ferdinand Marcos. Some claim that she was so convinced by the shaman's words that she ordered the kidnapping of street children near the construction site. Children whose families, being poor and without power, were unlikely to search for them. According to the rumor, their throats were slit, their blood was mixed into the concrete, and their bodies were buried within the bridge's foundation. Which sounds horrifying, but this wouldn't be the first bloodstained construction project tied to Imelda Marcos. If this legend reminds you of the Manila Film Center tragedy of 1981, where dozens of workers were allegedly buried alive during rushed construction, you are not alone. The Marcos era was filled with these kind of stories of grandeur built on suffering, of power maintained through sacrifices, both literal and metaphorical. Now, in reality, Imelda Marcos wasn't officially in charge of San Juanico's Bridge's construction. The project was handled by the Construction and Development Corporation of the Philippines, now the Philippine National Construction Corporation, led by a Marcos associate, Rodolfo Cuenca. Yeah. The Marubeni Corporation from Japan supplied materials and equipment, and construction was overseen by Balthazar Aquino, then Commissioner of the Bureau of Public Highways. But here is the thing. San Juanico Bridge was presented to Imelda Marcos as a personal birthday gift from her husband. And the groundbreaking ceremony. It was deliberately scheduled on her birthday. So while she might not have been officially in charge, who's to say she didn't have a say in what happened behind the scenes, right? So here is where things take a supernatural turn. According to local legend, the sacrifices didn't please the spirits. Instead, they angered them. The Diwata, a powerful nature spirit believed to protect the waters around San Juanico Bridge, was said to have witnessed the brutal killings. The spirit saw the innocent children's throats being slit, their small bodies discarded into the foundation, and it was enraged. So the Diwata cursed Imelda Marcos, and the punishment was that she would grow fish scales on her legs and emit a foul, fishy stench. So Imelda Marcos was known for always wearing long gowns and skirts, never revealing her legs. And people began to whisper, was she hiding something? Like, was this why she was obsessed with wearing luxurious designer perfumes to mask the stench of her curse? And of course there was never any proof of her growing scales, of course, but yeah. Marco loyalists dismissed the story as nothing more than slander, a desperate attempt to smear the presidential family's name. But for many Filipinos, this legend isn't just about San Juanico Bridge. It's a metaphor of the horrors of martial law. Because under Marco's rule, thousands suffered. From 1972 to 1981, during the martial law era, and even beyond that period, there were extrajudicial executions, arbitrary arrests, torture, enforced disappearances, and countless human rights abuses committed by the government and military. People vanished, never to be seen again. And much like the children who were supposedly buried within the bridge, their blood was spilled, and the nation was left to carry the weight of those sacrifices. If you thought the rumors of blood sacrifices tied to San Juanico Bridge were disturbing, wait until you hear about what happened after the bridge was built. And during the martial law era, Amnesty International reported that over 70,000 people who opposed to the Marcos regime were imprisoned. And of them, 34,000 people were tortured, and more than 3,200 were killed. And those are just the documented cases, which means the real numbers could be far worse, hidden by fear, silence, and unreported deaths. But among all the brutal torture methods used by the military at the time, there was one so cruel, so inhumane, that it became infamous. It was called the San Juanico Bridge method. Victims were forced to lie down with their head on one bed and their feet on another, their bodies suspended in the air, just like a bridge. Then they were beaten relentlessly, sometimes until their spine gave out. Many survivors suffered broken backs, internal bleeding, or permanent paralysis. Others didn't survive at all. And this horrifying method of torture may be the reason behind one of the most chilling ghost stories surrounding the bridge. For years, people traveling across San Juanico Bridge have reported seeing ghostly soldiers, some drenched in blood, others missing their heads, marching back and forth in the dead of night. Some say the apparitions look as though they're patrolling endlessly pacing the bridge as if still trapped in the horrors of martial law. Many who cross the bridge at night have spoken about feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, like unseen eyes were watching them from the shadows. Some even claim they've heard sounds. They've heard whispers, distant footsteps, or, most terrifying of all, the sounds of marching boots when no one else is around. And then there's the woman in white. Countless drivers have reported seeing a ghostly figure standing by the roadside, dressed in white, asking for a ride to the other side of the bridge. Some who have stopped to let her in claim that the moment they reach the end of the bridge, she disappears. And others say she leaves behind something far worse, a high-pitched, chilling laughter that echoes in the air long after she's gone. Another ghostly tale tied to the bridge is the story of a headless priest. According to legend, a priest once tried to cross the bridge, but for reasons unknown, he was beheaded as punishment. Since then, travelers claim to have seen a spectral figure in a priest's robe wandering the bridge at night, desperately searching for his missing head. The legend of San Juanico Bridge is so infamous that it became the basis for the 6th installment of Filipino horror anthology film Shake, Rattle, and Roll, released in 1997. In episode 14, titled Ang Tulay, the story follows the restless spirit of a young boy who was kidnapped and sacrificed for the bridge's construction. The boy, now a tormented ghost, is said to lure other children to their deaths so they can stay with him in the afterlife, forever trapped in his lonely torment. This film is just one of many depictions of the bridge's haunting reputation, which shows how deeply embedded these dark stories are in Filipino folklore. So whether you believe in curses or not, in today's story, one thing is clear. San Juanico Bridge is more than just a structure. It's a place where history, tragedy, and ghostly legends collide. And if you ever find yourself crossing it on a dark, quiet night, be careful who or what you might see standing by the roadside. And that is the end of today's spooky story. What do you think? Do you believe in the legends surrounding San Juanico Bridge? Or do you think they're just stories passed down through generations? Either way, the eerie history and chilling ghost tales make this place one of the most mysterious landmarks in the Philippines. So if you enjoyed this video and love hearing creepy stories like this, let me know in the comments. And if you have other urban legends, haunted places, or dark mysteries you want me to cover, feel free to share. I'd love to dive into them. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on the next terrifying tale. I'll be back soon with more spine-chilling stories. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and don't look back when crossing bridges at night. See you on the next episode.